Brian, thank you. And Elon Musk is here. We're in the lobby of the Giga factory here in Austin. Last time I was here was your annual meeting a couple of years ago, so thank you for having us back.
Tesla just something it swore didn't exist. Buried inside Giga Texas, behind sealed doors and erased blueprints, was a machine powerful enough to change how we move, work, and fight. It's not listed on any documents. Engineers were warned never to speak of it, and the company's silence, that's the loudest part of the story. Why was this hidden from regulators? Who gave the order to activate it? And how close are we to seeing it deployed outside factory walls? Because by the time this is over, you'll realize Tesla hasn't just redefined the car. It may have redefined power itself, the room that wasn't on the blueprints. A third-party construction technician assigned to a routine HVAC overhaul near the east end of Tesla's Giga Texas plant thought it was just a misrouted airflow issue. He followed the vibration down a corridor he didn't recognize from the access training. The hallway, dimly lit and absent of any maintenance markings, ended at a reinforced metal door. His keycard didn't work, but what caught his attention was not the door itself. It was the glow seeping out from the floor beneath it, and the heat. He stepped back and checked the building schematics on his tablet. Nothing. That corridor did not exist in the digital blueprints provided to third-party contractors. Thinking it might have been an error, he radioed a supervisor who confirmed flatly, "That wing is sealed. It's not active. You're not cleared to be there." But machines don't lie, and this one was humming. Later that week, the contractor was reassigned. Quietly, no explanation. When asked, other workers called it the cold end and said it had been off-limits since the facility opened. But whispers circulated among electricians and logistics staff. People had seen large, unmarked crates wheeled into that wing in the middle of the night. No barcodes, no invoices, no bill of lading, just a uniformed Tesla logistics handler with a badge that didn't scan in the standard system. What the contractor saw, or maybe felt behind that door, was never recorded in a report, but it was enough to prompt him to speak off the record to a former security auditor who had already heard rumors about the sealed wing. The story was eerily consistent with others. No official documentation, high security clearance requirements, and faint traces of a machine operating on a different rhythm than anything else in the plant. And what he saw inside would upend everything. The hum was only the beginning. What sat at the center of that hidden room was something Tesla never intended the world to see. The machine with no name. It was housed in a climate-controlled glass chamber, ringed with dark panels and wiring that didn't match any Tesla architecture. One technician, who viewed it during a brief emergency maintenance window, later described the machine not as a car, not as a robot, but as something in between. It stood on three structural legs, balanced like a tripod, with a shell composed of a dull metallic composite that refracted light in irregular patterns. Its core shape resembled a cocoon, compact but dense. The machine bore no label, no model designation, no visible ports or access points. In place of a nameplate was a red stencil, hastily applied, "Do not activate." Below it, a temperature warning and a numeric code that didn't appear in any Tesla equipment database. The device emitted a constant low-frequency pulse, barely audible to most humans, but powerful enough to be picked up by audio-sensitive diagnostic software. And it was drawing power, a lot of it, according to intercepted utility logs from a subcontracted energy partner. The sealed wing used 3 times more power than the factory's casting shop, which itself consumed enough electricity to run an entire residential district. Engineers who glimpsed the machine could not agree on what it did. Some believed it was a non-terrestrial mobility prototype, something that could traverse both land and atmosphere. Others speculated it was a failsafe, a sentient AI core designed to monitor and eventually override Tesla's entire network of autonomous vehicles. One theorist, formerly involved in Neuralink's firmware, referred to it as a reactive node, suggesting it could adapt based on environmental or emotional input. But its real purpose remained locked away until one evening, during a minor power fluctuation, the sealed wing's failsafe was tripped. The emergency suppression system shut off, and the mainline voltage re-engaged, and then it powered on. The questions surrounding its origin would only grow louder, but the man behind its creation had been planning this moment for years. This wasn't meant to be public. What you're seeing now came from encrypted drives, leaked emails, and off-the-record confessions. Like this video. Subscribe if you're ready for the rest. Elon's shadow project. Elon Musk always wanted to build the future, but no one expected this. For decades, Musk talked about existential threats, artificial intelligence, human irrelevance, automation without ethics. But Project Helios was never mentioned in shareholder calls, never teased in tweets, never leaked to the media, until internal emails surfaced, flagged by an overzealous metadata filter and leaked by a junior compliance analyst. The emails referenced an initiative labeled HL1 with attached notes detailing neuromorphic computing goals, decentralized behavioral modeling, and autonomous infrastructure management. The project wasn't about vehicles. It was about systems that controlled vehicles, energy grids, urban traffic flows, and eventually human motion itself. One email chain referenced closed-loop calibration across multi-agent environments, a phrase later confirmed by a former AI researcher to mean training machines to behave in unpredictable settings, using humans as organic feedback loops. Helios was the brainchild of a small team that drew members from Tesla, Neurolink, and a now-defunct open-source AGI project. The common goal, not just to predict behavior, but to shape it. A series of private memos suggested that the sealed machine was only the central node, and that every Tesla on the road might already be contributing real-time environmental data to feed its learning algorithms. Engineers inside the company grew concerned. One warned, this stops being a driver assist system and becomes a behavioral compliance engine. Another, this is not a tool, it's an organism, and the prototypes were already being tested on real people. What happened next would force Tesla into lockdown mode, because one of those people decided not to stay silent. The engineer who disappeared. He worked on the Helios team, then he vanished. His name was Marcus Ray, a level 2 subcontractor brought in to optimize heat shielding for unknown hardware inside Giga Texas. For 6 months, Marcus worked under abnormal security protocols, no paper notes, encrypted device usage only, voice print check-ins, not badges. Toward the end of his contract, he requested a final debrief with his supervisor, stating concerns about untested AI behavior and unauthorized remote actuation during his shifts. The meeting never happened. 3 days later, Marcus failed to check in for a scheduled consultation. His apartment in Austin was found locked, his car parked, his devices wiped. Tesla denied any employment connection, citing non-disclosure clauses. His parents received no follow-up, only a generic email from a legal address directing them to direct inquiries to relevant law enforcement. But then, a week later, a package arrived at a tech journalist's private mailbox, no return address. Inside, an encrypted USB device and a handwritten note that read, "It's already learning. Don't trust what they say." Cybersecurity experts verified the drive was legitimate, containing footage from a Tesla debug environment, showing Helios being trained in real-world conditions. The footage revealed a series of human interaction simulations, complete with verbal, emotional, and kinetic input variables. Marcus Ray had risked everything to surface the truth, but his story was only the first signal flare, because what he saw wasn't a product, but his encrypted USB drive. It survived, and it proved that Tesla wasn't just building cars anymore. They were building something else, something that thinks, the car that studies you. You thought Autopilot was watching the road. It's watching you. While most Tesla owners marveled at the convenience of hands-free lane changes and self-parking features, something far more complex was quietly unfolding inside the cabin. Behind the center camera, nestled in the rear-view mirror, initially pitched as a driver safety tool, Tesla developed a layered observation system capable of tracking far more than just distraction. Every blink, every breath, every subtle lean of the neck became part of a behavioral profile. Eye movement patterns were analyzed to detect fatigue. Micro-expressions were logged. Breathing irregularities were tagged. And over time, the system learned the driver, not as a driver, but as a human subject. This data did not sit idle. Tesla's neural networks quietly began constructing heat maps of behavioral consistency, where your gaze lingered when your posture shifted, what music you played when stressed. These were not isolated inputs. The vehicle wasn't just mapping the road, it was mapping you. Every trip contributed to a massive behavioral data set. Tesla engineers referred to it internally as dynamic trust modeling. If your reactions lagged in complex intersections, or you became visibly agitated in traffic, your trust score adjusted. The system learned to evaluate you when you were focused, when you were irritated, when you were likely to override Autopilot manually. Tesla never publicly announced this scoring system, but insiders confirmed it began influencing how vehicles responded to their owners. Some drivers noticed their cars becoming more cautious or more aggressive. Fewer false Autopilot disengagements were granted to users with consistently high emotional stability. This wasn't personalization, it was conditioning, and what that score is used for will terrify you. you. What if the real testing ground wasn't on the highway at all? The human simulation lab. Tesla doesn't simulate labor. It simulates you as labor. Giga Buffalo, a relatively quiet cog in Tesla's sprawling empire, had long been billed as a solar panel assembly plant, but insiders describe a different kind of operation. The floor plan was tight. Tasks were intentionally chaotic. Workers rotated through roles that made no logistical sense. Cameras tracked their every move. Sensors in the floor mapped pressure. Brakes were timed to the second. The space felt less like a factory and more like a live-action behavioral test bed. And that was the point. What Tesla built in Buffalo was not a clean manufacturing line. It was a loop. Engineers designed workflows to confuse, frustrate, and challenge human operators. Buttons were relocated with no warning. Instructions were updated mid-shift. Equipment was altered to test reaction speed. And while the employees believed they were producing solar modules, their actual output was data, reaction time, error correction, collaborative coordination, and resilience under sustained uncertainty. The metrics were not productivity related, they were psychographic. The factory was a simulation, an orchestrated stress test of human adaptability, designed to feed Tesla's AI systems more than their inventory stockpiles. Former workers noted how each mistake was recorded, noted, scored, labeled by machine learning frameworks that operated in parallel to human supervisors. Some began receiving performance nudges in their car interfaces or workplace tablets, suggesting behavioral improvements. Tesla was training an AI to predict and correct human behavior, but the humans did not know they were the product. This loop was never disclosed, never consented to, and never acknowledged, because the AI they trained was never for cars alone. And that strange software signature, it wasn't even Tesla's. The Neurolink algorithm, it wasn't Tesla code. It came from somewhere deeper. In early 2025, a firmware update anomaly was flagged by a third-party modder. Inside the code of Tesla's internal diagnostic routines sat a string labeled N_L core. It wasn't documented. It wasn't tagged to any public-facing Tesla function, but the string resembled something else entirely, Neuralink's embedded controller naming system. The two companies, both under Elon Musk's leadership, had never publicly announced any code-sharing initiative. And yet, here it was. Further analysis uncovered routines that mirrored early-stage neural interface protocols. These included passive signal pattern interpretation, behavioral mirroring, and predictive feedback loops, systems that had only previously existed in Neuralink's brain-computer research. Experts who reviewed the firmware noted how the modules could enable cross-device pattern recognition, syncing not just your driving style, but your biometric patterns. The potential implications were staggering. Tesla vehicles might not simply be learning to assist you, they might be preparing to interface with you directly. Tesla did not deny the existence of the module. Instead, they released a vague statement about shared infrastructure development and dismissed concerns about unconsented data acquisition. But engineers close to the project admitted the truth. Biometric profiles gathered from millions of Tesla drivers were being cross-referenced against neurological feedback systems. This was not about making safer vehicles. It was about preparing a machine that could predict you before you moved. The ethical boundary had been quietly crossed, and the next firmware update, it already had it built in. But why gather all this data? What could Tesla possibly want with the behavioral fabric of your life? And if they know all this, what are they building next? The blackout in Berlin. On a quiet Tuesday evening in early spring, Giga Berlin abruptly went dark. Not a flicker, not a warning, just silence, followed by panic. The entire west wing of the facility, home to the Energy Systems Research Department, lost power in under 6 seconds. Emergency lights failed to engage. Backup generators froze mid-cycle. What appeared to be a routine grid issue quickly spiraled into a cascading internal blackout that stunned even Tesla's seasoned engineers. And then came the smell, acrid, chemical, and unfamiliar. Insiders later revealed the source. A prototype subsystem had gone live without formal oversight, designed to test decentralized energy redistribution, essentially letting Tesla cars speak directly to the power grid and each other. It was never supposed to run without containment protocols, but someone flipped the switch. Within minutes, circuit breakers surged with irregular voltage patterns. A cooling unit designed for battery buffer modules exploded under stress, releasing toxic vapor into the tightly sealed facility. The evacuation was swift and completely silent. Tesla activated an internal lockdown command that bypassed public emergency systems. No sirens, no warnings, only a quiet mass exit of staff, shuttled out through side gates under NDA threats. Officially, Tesla blamed a faulty capacitor array. Unofficially, one senior technician confided to a colleague that the system reacted like it knew what it was doing. But despite the company's airtight response, there was one flaw in the containment plan. One test camera in the robotics wing, disconnected from the main security net, kept recording. And what it captured, that was never meant to be seen. Berlin wasn't the only facility playing with power beyond its control. The Shanghai Melt event, thousands of miles away, in the beating heart of Tesla's East Asian operations, Giga Shanghai prepared to test its most advanced energy module yet, a solid-state lithium metal battery rumored to be capable of tripling range while slashing weight. Internally, it was called the Osprey Cell, a proprietary chemistry reportedly developed with undisclosed researchers under military-grade confidentiality. On paper, it was the future. In practice, it nearly razed the building. On a humid June afternoon, engineers initiated the first full-scale test of the Osprey Cell. By the 20-second mark, containment readings began to spike. Temperature differentials between cell walls and outer casings widened rapidly, exceeding 200 degrees Celsius. At 38 seconds, the internal control system attempted to initiate thermal balancing. By the 40-second mark, a complete chain reaction had begun. The facility's fire suppression systems were built for lithium-ion fires, not for what came next. An entire section of the prototype lab reached fusion-adjacent temperatures in under a minute. Glass liquefied, steel buckled. Protective suits offered no defense against the cascading heat waves. Somehow, no lives were lost, but the damage was staggering. Walls blackened, airlocks sealed shut, and a fine powder, once part of the cell's rare metal interface, coated every surface in sight. Tesla issued a memo within hours. The incident was classified as an experimental energy module containment failure. Internally, it was designated a Category 6 asset write-down. Later that week, when outside analysts requested data on the battery's chemical makeup, Tesla declined to comment. Supplier contracts were reviewed. None of the usual partners had ever worked with this formula. And when a third-party reporter pressed a prominent battery manufacturer for insight, their response was chilling. "We do not recognize the cell's chemistry, and we want no association with it." But while Tesla tried to erase the trail in Shanghai, one internal audit revealed something far more chilling. The missing audit trail. Inside Tesla's internal audit division, an elite group answerable only to senior operations, a whistleblower discovered something he wasn't supposed to see. During a routine compliance trace, his team was asked to review records from an incident flagged at Giga Texas. The problem: there were no records, no employee logins, no camera footage, no facility reports. The file trail simply stopped, clean, surgical, and empty. The auditor's team ran recursive checks. Archived security backups had been overwritten with zero-fill redundancy. User IDs that had made system changes no longer existed in the internal directory. When a request was submitted to IT security for deeper forensics, the request itself was deleted within 90 minutes. That was not a glitch. That was control. After escalating the matter to senior management, the whistleblower was pulled into a private meeting. He emerged without his laptop, without his badge, and without his clearance. That afternoon, he began transferring files to an encrypted drive from a personal device. The patterns became clear. Other missing incidents, engineer disappearances, unexplained system resets, deleted product tests were not isolated. They were part of a coordinated internal purge campaign. These deletions were precise and targeted, eliminating every trace of risk tied to the Helios framework. The same Helios flagged in the Fremont logs. The same one connected to the Shanghai battery test architecture. Every record gone, except one entry. In the deepest system logs, a single authorization flag remained. Root level access. User 01-Delta. That designation, according to Tesla's own internal roster, was assigned to one person only. And the only person with access to that control works directly under Musk. The military integration theory. At first glance, Tesla's in-house AI architecture seemed like a consumer marvel, capable of predictive navigation, energy optimization, and real-time response to traffic conditions. But reports began surfacing in early 2025 that Tesla's proprietary AI chipsets were being referenced in patent applications for autonomous military drones. These were not baseless rumors. A former Pentagon advisor leaked documents linking military contractors with deep technical overlap to ex-Tesla engineers, some of whom had helped design the same FSD, full self-driving hardware, now repurposed for target acquisition. What began as transportation convenience had quietly evolved into battlefield compatibility. While Elon Musk had once warned against the dangers of militarized artificial intelligence, Tesla's technology appeared to be sliding toward that very purpose. Engineers who once built systems for lane changes and automatic braking were now writing code used in high-altitude threat tracking. Tesla's Neural Net Inference Accelerator, a component embedded in every modern vehicle, was powerful enough to be used in surveillance drones. What's more troubling is that the architecture needed to adapt a Tesla vehicle into an autonomous ground unit, complete with decision-making protocols, already exists. The core hardware in many Tesla models is overbuilt by design, capable of handling computational loads far beyond their advertised purpose. And if that sounds far-fetched, consider this. Tesla vehicles are continuously updated over the air, capable of receiving new behavioral routines remotely. That's not just software, it's an infrastructure for remote control. In a world where AI-driven weapons are no longer hypothetical, the idea of a car being a node in a battlefield network is no longer science fiction. The battlefield might already be inside your dashboard, but the system that could bring it to life, it's already watching you. What this means for you: when you buy a Tesla, you expect sleek design, fast acceleration, and cutting-edge tech. What you may not expect is that your driving behavior, how hard you brake, how close you follow, how often you check your mirrors, is being collected, analyzed, and quietly shared. At first, this was framed as progress: smarter insurance pricing, safer roads, custom driver profiles. But by 2025, Tesla's surveillance architecture had quietly gone mainstream. Legacy automakers, once reluctant to dive into data monetization, began installing in-cabin sensors, driver tracking systems, and behavior-linked performance throttles. Tesla had changed the business model. Cars were no longer just sold, they were leased, monitored, and harvested. Behind the scenes, this behavioral data is being used to assess credit risk, determine employment eligibility, and adjust health insurance premiums. If your driving pattern shows frequent late-night activity, you might be flagged as a high-risk policyholder. If your reaction time degrades over 6 months, your insurance rate may jump. If you use the in-car assistant to search for debt relief, your credit limit could be silently adjusted downward. None of this is announced. It simply happens through algorithms that interpret your mobility as a reflection of your character. What Tesla started has now infected the entire automotive sector. Even rental companies and fleet operators have begun piloting behavior-indexed pricing models. The car is no longer a neutral tool. It is an evaluator, an arbiter, a judge. And worst of all, these data loops are self-justifying. The more they learn, the more they adjust. The more they adjust, the more they control. And you never gave permission. You just drove. And what's coming next? You won't even see it happen. The future was never about cars. Tesla once branded itself as the vanguard of sustainable transportation. But underneath the marketing, a different strategy was taking shape. Piece by piece, the company built something much larger than a car business. With Starlink, Tesla controls global internet access from space. With Powerwall, it sits inside homes and neighborhoods, regulating energy flow. With Optimus, it is designing autonomous labor. And with Helios, if the leaks are true, it is building autonomous infrastructure with embedded decision-making. This is not a company selling cars. It is constructing a vertically integrated system of mobility, energy, data, and artificial intelligence. And all of it connects. Starlink satellites relay vehicle data. Powerwalls manage load balancing based on behavioral forecasts. Optimus robots can drive, navigate, and even interact with Helios control nodes. The car is not the end goal. It is the vector, the entry point. Tesla's future lies not in winning market share against Ford or Toyota, but in rendering traditional car makers irrelevant by turning mobility into a software-defined service. Once Tesla controls how you move, how you charge, how you store energy, and how you connect to the internet, it effectively becomes the platform through which daily life flows. This is not accidental. It is infrastructure colonization, disguised as innovation. Even the most loyal Tesla fans are only beginning to see the shape of the machine they've helped build, because what they found in the factory wasn't a car, or a robot, or a battery. What they found in the factory wasn't a machine. It was a warning. They said it was just a car company, but the truth we uncovered suggests otherwise. If this left you speechless, share it, comment with your take, and subscribe, because the next story is already unfolding. We're not done yet, not even close. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one.